أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين ربنا اغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الراحمين ربي أني مسني الضر وأنت أرحم الراحمين لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Now let's jump into the subject because it has been a long time now. Okay, who's going to read the Arabic original version?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت.
English translation.
Do they not look at the camels how they are created, and at the heaven how it is raised? Now, and at the mountains how they are rooted and fixed firm, and at the earth how it is spread out.
Spread out. Thank you. It's good. When you read this kind of verses from the Quran, there are many. Just these are some examples of this kind of verses. Do you really relate the content of these verses to yourself? Asking the same question, have I looked at the camel? You say, no, I haven't seen it. I've never seen any camel here. So let's go into it. When you read this verse, what do you get out of this kind of verses? Any suggestions? Anybody? What do you get it? When you read this one in the book, however you regard the book is, with some for some people it is a very sacred book. You can't even touch it. For some people, you can really read and understand simply, but let's work on it. Yeah.
The first thing I think about is that you find that nothing is accidental.
Okay, that's correct. How do you relate the verse to yourself? To yourself, for example, look at the verses. Have you not? Do they not look at the camel, how they are created? I cannot pronounce it as well as this little lady does. So you can help me with my pronunciation. Thank you. So when you say, for example, some people say, this verse was revealed to a community where people were really engaged with the camel as if the American people are engaged with the cars. Yeah, maybe more. So that, car is a part of our life, a car. It may not be the case in New York or in big cities because of the availability of the public transportations, but majority of the people, I don't know, the population of the people here may have as many cars are running on the street as there are people here, almost. Yeah, in one family you have more than one. If you go out of the big cities, you cannot live here without a car. So how do you relate this? Some people say, look, the Quran addresses to its own contemporary people, because it says, it is not really universal. It speaks to the people who are engaged or really always living with the camels. It has nothing to do with me. This is a problem, sort of a problem, or sorry, source of a problem, really trying to understand the Quran in terms of the conditions of the local people or the contemporaries of the Prophet Muhammad. Speaking to them, and of course this attitude drags them into understanding of the Quran within the context of the tribal desert Arab life, and say that because Arabs were like this, accustomed with, or so the Quran saying this to them, which is appropriate to their conditions, of course, without realizing that by doing so, they think they are justifying the language of the Quran or examples of the Quran. In most of the cases, they are justifying the, if you like, arguments of the Quran in terms of the people the first time when it was revealed to the Prophet and through the Prophet to the community. So the other parts, you may say the camel is okay, but there are many other verses in the Quran. If you really take them into the historical time and space of the contemporaries of the Prophet, you really end up with not reading a universal book, but reading a very historical, local, although it may sound to be interesting, exciting, but it is valid only within a certain culture. Do you feel that if the Quran, by its own default definition, speaks to human beings, so do you feel comfortable that I have to take this camel into my life? I don't have to go and see a camel. Instead, I always ask this question: what is my camel? What is your camel? What is your camel? Sorry? Your legs, did you say? Yes, why not? What else?
Cats.
Your camel represents what? Transportation, but also
Animal.
an animal. So do you say, for example, of course we are not going to change the language of the Quran, as the Quran says, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. So can we easily say that it is for me, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الطَّيْرِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. Don't they look at the birds? إِلَى الطُّيُور. Camel is plural, but not plural. It's a general name. That's why they translate it as camels. But yeah. So you can look at the birds instead of looking at the camels. Where you feel that this is justifiable because of the nature of the Quran as the speech of God, it seems to be easily understandable in these terms. This mountain, camel, and the heavens, and the earth, this globe of earth. It is justifiable. You can generalize it. You can see it. But if you have this understanding and look at the rest of the teachings of the Quran through this lens, you always, whatever the word, the certain word in the time of the prophet, used for a certain purpose, for a certain meaning, I have to update it to my circumstances. So it is kind of very useful and revolutionary attitude for you. It is just really shaking many things behind it. So, of course, there is a limit. Of course, some people exploit it. I don't know if you are aware of it or not. Some people really exploit this aspect of reading. And they are called modernizing the content of the Quran, etc. Yeah, well, there is a label for it, or very extremely liberal reading of the Quran. So we have to be cautious, not to go beyond the limits that the text itself, the grammatic structure of the text itself, allows us to update, if you like, the content rather than the camel. For example, any animal, how they are created, I have to investigate it, I have to study it. So if someone says, I am busy with my worldly life, I am busy with I don't know, certain subject which is related to an exact sciences. Now, in general, even the humanities or social sciences, doesn't matter. But I'm with really sciences, as it is called now. So studying medicine or biology, chemistry, whatever. So when we study that, we can relate it to our subject. We don't have to go to certain geographical part of the world where the prophet lived. We don't have to go to a certain period of the history in human life so that we will understand the Quran. We feel that no, we don't have to. But at the same time, we cannot really try to twist the meanings to adopt my own expectations of the social, political, economical side of my life. I have to be careful there. But as far as studying the Quran for my own belief purpose, it means not necessarily making a judicial, okay. Not making a judicial decision, it is another field. But as far as understanding my own life, as far as understanding the purpose of my life, and which kind of ideas or conclusions I will derive from this universe and my existence in this universe, without really subjugating it to a certain cultural background of the Quran's first revealed century or time. Without doing that, you can do that. That is a very good example to me. Looking at the mountains, looking at the sky or heavens, how does it translate? Heaven. Looking at the heaven and the mountain and any animal, the earth. Maybe somebody is studying the moon. It's all right. You don't have to limit yourself with the moon. It means anything that attracts your attention. Of course, as far as our particular subject is concerned, we have to study it from, if you like, how Christian point of view. How, not why. We can't. But how? Question you can ask. How they are coming into existence, how they are given existence. We can study that. How? While you are studying, what is the Quran expecting us from this kind of study? To become an expert on mountain sciences or, I don't know, astronomy? What is it? What is the purpose of the Quran in drawing my attention to how the things are coming into existence? How the things are coming into existence, including my legs, myself, my feelings, and the mountain or the sky or atmosphere, whatever, the earth, the globe of earth, whatever, how they are coming into existence. Why do you think I should get engaged with how the things are being coming into existence? Of course, Quran says they are created, because that is the Quran's stand. But we have to listen to the Quran and agree or disagree. We don't know. After studying how, I will say, yeah, they are created, or no, they exist from eternity to eternity. It means they are eternal beings. Let's see how they are coming into existence. Without studying, you cannot come to any conclusion. So all your religious claims will be baseless. This is, do you agree with me? So this seems to be a simple methodology. But if you go and study the history, you will understand that it is a very important point, if you like, or methodologically extremely essential. If someone doesn't do it, cannot understand the Quran. If someone goes to the historical background, cannot relate it to himself. Just saying that Quran was the best literature, which convinced its first audience. And they were right to follow the Prophet, because they really relate what the Quran is telling about to their practical living life. Get it? Do we agree that? So you say, oh, Quran was a wonderful book. Not is. Not is. Was a wonderful book for its own environment. First, it was revealed. But we know that the Quran itself also emphasizes that it is a continuation of the previous revelations to the prophets who are sent to their own people. So it is not new. Although through we are receiving the Quran through the, if you like, mouth of the Prophet Muhammad, saying that I have received it from via angel Gabriel, but from God, ultimately from God, the source of the speech is God, and angel is just the angel is the postman, not the prophet is the postman. Gabriel is the postman. Yeah, delivers the letter and say bye-bye. I'm done. That is the function of angel. But the prophet receives it, transfers it to the people, and then shows it, demonstrates it in his own life. So we have to look at the prophet as the first person who put the message of the Quran into a human life. That is experiential now for us. That this person received this message and put into practical life and tried to teach the people around them as much as they can digest it. He never forced them. He never made the things difficult for him. We do make the things difficult for the believers. But he was very easy with his community. Only a certain things that essentially important in order to expose one's mind or feelings to the teachings of the Quran. The Prophet was very sensitive. One of them was, the foremost of them was any tribal concerns. Any tribal concerns, the Prophet used to get really, if you like, not like me, showing it, but couldn't hide his concern, or if you like, anger on his face. Everybody says, the narrators say the Prophet was very angry. The change or the color on his face expressed that. But he was still in his speech kind. That's a good example for us. We must also follow the same attitude. Never make the religion difficult. Yeah. And never get angry like me. I do get angry. So disappointed sometimes. Where did you get decided? Oh, like that. No, we never hear anything like that from the Prophet. What the Prophet was serious, of course, saying that wasn't the guidance of God enough for you? Why are you talking about the tribal conflicts or superiority, inferiority, etc.? For example, one of the hadith, the narrations from the Prophet, and then it says, the hadith says, there are beginnings and continuation, but I'm just taking a piece out of this hadith, just related to our, now, the topic we are talking about. Educate your slaves. Look, educate your slaves and teach them how to behave. And you cannot imagine how revolutionary it is. Get married with them. Marry them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine getting married with somebody's slave? It is unimaginable. No, it is unimaginable. Try. Is there anybody who is really marrying his slave or hers?
What slave? What do you mean by slave?
In that society.
Yeah, but now how do you translate that?
Yeah. For example, let me see let me transfer it and update it to my own condition and not my own experience. For example, there are people who are servants in rich families. Okay. If you say that I'm going to get married with her or with him, the servant, what do you think your father will do? The Pakistanis tell Bengali. If someone wants to get married with anybody other than Bengali, impossible. Then it is something beyond imagination for the families, let alone your slave. Let alone your slave. That is how the prophetic teaching was as far as his community, his friends, they call them companions. I'm not very happy with it. So his friends, his students, how he taught them, undermining the old concepts that we developed or we obtained from our cultural background, demolishing them, undermining them. But somebody may say, okay, the Prophet endorsed slavery or no, it's a transition. That was the society, and he transferred it practically. How? In a kind way, in a very appropriate to the principles of teaching, education. Get married with your slave. Educate him or her and teach her how to behave. It means teach her your lifestyle and get married. So the class difference will be completely dissolved. It's a perfect way. And this is unimaginable for an Arab tribal man to get married with his slave. Impossible. So this is the one example, one instant that we learn. There are many like this, many like this. So when you read the narrations from the examples of Prophet's life, you have to really be careful. What does it mean? What is he doing there? It is really revolutionizing the social life according to the teachings of oneness of God and everybody equal before God. Teaching how gradually, without hurting, without insulting, without forcing, gradual teaching. So we understand that the prophet is not a postman only. Prophet is the, if you like, instructor, the teacher of the content of the Quran. We learn from it a lot. So make the teachings of the Quran practical to your life. Today, you can do it and say, okay, I'm from, let's say, especially Malaysian people, we don't have it here. It's unimaginable to get married with a non-Malaysian. Almost the whole family rebels and rejects. Why? But they are Muslims, they say. They respect the Quran, they love Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Okay. This is why this, if you like, contextualizing the teachings of the Quran within your own context. Do you get it? What is usually you hear or you read from the books, contextualizing the Quran within its own preceding or proceeding verses, not, but this is what we hear. This is correct, this is absolutely correct, but more than this, we have to contextualize the content of the Quran within our own conditions. That is not really arbitrary or free, liberal interpretation of the Quran, but at the same time, we have to be aware that the Quran is not revealed to a civilization based mostly on a desert tribal life. It's the universal message. If you say that, oh no, I cannot universalize the teachings of the Quran, if someone says, I cannot universalize it, it means he's not reading the Quran. Because the Quran, God's guidance cannot be historicized. It means the Quran is an interesting, very influential, historical, literal book, but very influential. Everybody was amazed about its literal power, literal value, quality, but not anymore. That is very dangerous. And we have to wake up. This is very important. This is one example. So studying how is another aspect of it. How? The Quran says, look at how. So when you, for example, if someone says, I'm going to look at the mountain, how they are created or how they are raised. No, but rooted and fixed, firm. You have to study it. What does it mean? You have to experience any evidence that the Quran suggests to you within your capacity, within your own time, within your own geography. It means with your own practical life. You cannot alienate it. So if you live, for example, if we lived in, let's say, 10th century, CD, no, CEC, no, no. Common sorry, common era. So 10th century CE. Okay. We have to study the mountain as much as we can, according to our capacity. Now you cannot imitate it. No one imitates it. 10th century, let's say, geology book. It is invalid. But you have to update it according to your own conditions. It means Quran necessitates that we have to read the Quran within our own conditions. Necessary. For example, the typical example is this. Typical example. You know Avicenna or Ibn Sina? He was a very famous medical physician, philosopher, physician as well, mathematician as well, logician as well. This is classical scholarship, everything. So, but let's concentrate on his very famous, very fundamental book, Canon. It is 12th century, earlier than this, or no, much earlier than this. So let's say 10th, 11th century, I don't know exact date, but around there, the book was taught all over the world, including Europe, for 7 centuries. Anybody who studies medicine has to study and know what the canon says. Ibn Sina or Avicenna, it's in English they say Avicenna, in Arabic, Ibn Sina. 7th century. 7th century, all the universities who study or give education to medicine studied that. Now, who study medicine? Do they teach you canon? Why? It is out of date, right? So, because of those the conditions that this man was a great man, very influential man, who wrote this book. So, it is now well behind the level of an even ordinary medical school student. So, they know much more than Ibn Sina. It doesn't mean that Ibn Sina wasn't a great man. He was a great man in his time, because my point is not to be misunderstood. Now, we have to understand that Ibn Sina's studying the creation with how question was great for his time, not now. That's what we have to wake up to now. It was great for his time, not now, but related to what? Investigating the answer to how question. How human body works, yeah, how, or reacts, whatever, how. But not now. So why don't we do the same thing to the Quranic teachings as far as the investigation of the subject that the Quran offers us to study how? Do you understand? Did I make it clear? So the Quran is out of date, because Quran's aim is to teach the way you observe and analyze and interpret the universe or the objects come into existence and make a conclusion. When you are analyzing it, you can never take the examples of the contemporary scholarship of the Prophet Muhammad والسلام's time, the examples of the words or the meanings of the words according to the contemporary culture of that society. We have to be very careful. But we have to bring it to our life. Is it difficult? No. Just know that this is essential as far as understanding of the Quranic message is concerned. Quran doesn't teach you how. But what does Quran teach us? You have to, or the one who is reading the Quran asks the reader to study the creation, how they are coming into existence within their own space, within their own time. Don't imitate 12th century geology study, 12th century medical studies. They may be great people. Even I would say, don't imitate, and you cannot imitate 10th century, 8th century theology. That's very important, but I don't know who is in the field of theology. You have to update it. Otherwise, you get lost. You get lost and you start questioning that, really, it doesn't make sense anymore. No. At that time, it may, but not now. Do we get these principles? These are very fundamental principles if one wants to understand the message of the Quran. Quran never gives description how the things are happening. Never gives description what to do really, practically. He says, for example, worship God. He says, worship the creator of the mountain. And look at the mountain, how it is coming into existence. So simple. We should never forget that we have to update our study as far as answering the question, how the things are coming into existence. We cannot imitate the previous ones. How human logic works as far as the cultural accumulation of the human history. Now people study and developed the way the logic works, and there are many examples of philosophical theories or theological theories, and we have to update ourselves and then look at the Quran with this new updated data. That if we don't do it, the Quran is bound to be forgotten. We've got to be very careful. Or some people will rebel and say that, the Quran is a historical book. In order to have faith in God or practice our worship, we have to follow not the Quranic teaching, but the examples that we found in the century, rather than revising, understanding the main teachings of the Quran within the context of my available data. Do you understand that? This is very dangerous, very slippery also if you don't pay really carefully attention to it. Very slippery, but at the same time, very essential to my understanding. So we should stop imitating, but at the same time, follow the teachings of the Quran and know that the main aim of the Quran is to teach you very fundamental basis of belief and to put this belief into practice within your context. Somebody wants to ask a question or comment, whatever, welcome.
I want to reiterate on what you're trying to say, basically when you give the example of Ibn Sina. So, the Quran is definitely a universal message, and
you're now asking us to, update the message, but how we go on about extracting
There's a
the
mistake.
meaning.
Update the content of the message if the content says. For example, look at the camel, how it is created. Now, you cannot imitate Ibn Sina as he explained how the camel's body is working. For example, you have to update it, the content. As far as the how question is concerned. Otherwise, they say, in the Quranic teaching or Islamic tradition, what Islamic tradition has turned into an imitation of a desert tribal life. So they say, no, we can't. We can't go back to desert, live in Mecca or Medina in these geographical conditions, so that we will be able to follow the teachings of the Quran. No, we don't have to. But it doesn't mean that we should really change the aims, the targets, or purposes of the Quran. We can't. But we can change what? The content of the examples, evidence, right? For example, if the Prophet behaved in this way, the very simple part of the hadith I narrated, the narrations of the Prophet, I narrated now that teach your slave, educate him or her, and get married. So you say, okay, we don't have any slaves, bye-bye. I have nothing to do with it. Yeah? But you have to update the content. So if someone is inferior, either caste-wise, if you are coming from Pakistan, Indian background, or skin color-wise, it's very important. Can you imagine? And you may not know, but ask the people who come from Pakistan or Indian background. At lower, a person, it is almost unimaginable for the traditional life to get married with a person from the lower caste. It's nothing to do with Islam, but still very powerfully living in the Muslim world. Can you get married with a dark-skinned southern Egyptian? What about your father will say? No, it's a very private question. You will see, you will hear the reaction of your parents. Yeah, black. Oh, we're getting with a black. Just the skin color. Just skin color. Same thing. Nothing different from me. Or in also the mostly you can see the caste structure based on skin color. Wider the better, darker the lower. Why? And they don't really jump from one class, caste into another. Nowadays, people are going abroad and getting out of the culture. But look, religion has not influenced into our life. Only when you go out of that Muslim culture, go into another culture and become more and more relaxed towards the color of the complexion of a person, then you can start jumping up and down from your caste. Otherwise, within the culture, impossible. What does it mean? So we have to pay attention that we have to update the content according to our life standards, not the purposes. Yeah, purposes of the Quran, not the aims of the Quran. We have to pay attention. These verses are the examples. Look at the camel. So can you change that? No, there is no camel. I cannot look at it. Is it the purpose of the Quran? No, I've never seen any camel. This verse has nothing to do with me. No, we have to look at an animal, a type of camel in my life. And for the purpose of what? See how it is created. How? But why are you asked in the Quran that we have to see how a camel is created? Isn't that obvious? Why are we asked? Somebody? Two?
Camels are more sensitive to music. Also, they drink less water and
Doesn't matter. Any animal.
they work really
Doesn't have to be a camel. Any animal. Why are we asked in the Quran to look at an animal, a mountain, a sky or earth?
Sorry, just
Why?
This is the evidence.
Sorry?
This is the evidence.
To see the evidence of what?
God's creation.
But ultimately, we are looking at the bird and studying how it is coming into existence.
It has a
Why
maker.
the Quran is asking you to do that?
It has a maker. There's proof that there's
So
a maker.
yeah, you have to
There's a
see that
relationship.
in it. Sorry,
That there is a relationship that you have with these other creations.
yeah. But what are you going to do if you see the relationship?
Similarities,
And
differences,
yeah, you've seen it. Yeah, and
see how they function, how you function and it functions, and
so
okay.
you have seen it. Okay, how they function. Okay, what happened? So what is the ultimate aim that we are expected to reach as far as the Quranic purposes are concerned?
We are one.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all God's creations.
So we are created. The point is we are created. We have a creator. So how am I going to know that I have a creator? By studying an animal, maybe a fly, but doesn't matter. Maybe if you don't like a frog, study it and see how it is coming into existence so that you will understand that there must be a conscious, absolute creator giving existence to it and to me and putting me in connection with this creation, and then understand that the universe has one absolute creator. We are all his products.
Everything.
Everything together. So all beings are creatures, only there's one creator. So in order to reach this, I will give you in order to reach this purpose of the Quran, you study anything. Because these are examples. It doesn't mean that the Quran asks me to look at the sky. I look at the sky. To look at the earth, I look at the earth. And to look at the camel and mountain, so I cannot look at the tree. Because Quran doesn't ask me to study the tree. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? You have to generalize it. It means study whatever exists around you in order to see the source of existence. So be convinced, be satisfied that really I am made by a conscious, absolute being as a result of my studies. Now,
You almost answered part of my question with the Quran doesn't tell me to look at the tree, so I don't look at it. But when the Quran says look at how something is created, it's a challenge to investigate. Yes, to see that something comes into creation in a certain way, and we come into creation in a certain way, and therefore we have this relationship. So we must be created in the same way and have the same creator. But perhaps is there not, I guess, to demodernize or to take literally, to look at camels specifically and how they are created. Perhaps, like, is there a challenge in that maybe, as opposed to saying, look at how horses are created? Like, perhaps there's a specific reason to look at camels. As
Is
opposed
there
to,
any?
I don't have access to camels to go look at, right?
I'll come to you. As the brother said, they are sensitive to music. Don't you think for example, that deers are not sensitive to something?
No.
So they are all the same. The birds are not sensitive to music. They really sing you music more than being sensitive. So every creature has a purpose. You can study and see the purpose, and all purposes take us to acknowledging who the creator can be.
But is there a function in the Quran that specifies camels? Or, for example, that specifies, look at how trees are rooted and fixed and firm. But it's not maybe like I don't
These
know.
are examples. These are examples. Because if we understand in the general teachings of the Quran, ultimately it says, look at this, look at this, look at this. You will understand that everything glorifies the Creator.
Right.
Yeah. So these are, examples. Because something specific to camel. Don't you think that, for example, if you speak to those people who love horses, not the camel, but love horses, they communicate with the horses, then the horses really are very loyal. The dogs and horses. Dogs are in a way, horses are in another way. They are very loyal to their owners, human owners, and they communicate really, really in a very interesting, unimaginable way. For example, if a person goes, this is what I know only, I don't know about the life of horses. If a person goes on somewhere, rides his horse, and let's say falls and dies, what does the horse do? Huh? No, goes back home and makes some crazy actions. The other people know that there's something on, and get on the horse and leave it. It takes you where its owner or rider fell. That's when I read this one. Every creature definitely has a specific purpose. Every creature. So if you have a camel, study it. If you don't, what do you have? A cat, study it. Well, what's wrong with it? So, or dog, or I don't know. Do you have some flies in your house? Study it. So, yes, brother.
Refer to his question about the camel. I was thinking in these 4 verses, I was thinking about the typical Arab that would go to the desert. So they're going to this very long desert and they're riding on the camel. They get off the camel and they see these 4 things. These 4 things are, they see his camel, they see his mountain, which is like around Mecca, is like a very mountainous area. They see the skies, they see the earth. So I guess the poetic thing behind these 4 verses is just to ponder about these things. Like as you're saying, we don't necessarily need to say, ponder about the camel only. The camel has its benefits, but we could replace the word camel with many other things and possibly like ponder about flies or ponder about birds or something like that.
No, in the meaning replacement, I said don't misunderstand. That changed the Quran. Say that. Example in your own context. So when you say this is the remnants, the traces of this typical teaching, camel was very important for Arab lives. Okay, it's not important for me. Bye. I have nothing to do with this verse because the car is more important for me than the camel. So, no, you cannot say that. You cannot interpret any of the verses related to belief aspect of the teachings of the Quran, referring it, be careful here, referring it the historical, geographical context of the revelation time. You cannot say that camel was very important, so we have to go and study the camel. But you can say what? Yes, camel was very important, and everybody was really acquainted with the camel, and they were really excited about the camel. You can say, okay, the majority of a lot of the people, millions of the people, it's a big industry, yeah, dog and cat food. It means people are acquainted with the dogs and cats. So you can, when you speak to somebody, rather than the text is text. Text is fixed. We cannot play with the text because text is universal. But we said how we are going to really make it to our own life. You can speak to your neighbor if you don't have one, a cat or dog. We have been with this dog for 5 years, or they live somewhere around 10 something years. So you have been for this with this dog. You are familiar with it. You love the dog. You know it's a very important element in the family life of many American families. Yeah, very important. No one say that, forget about this dog. It's just an animal. No. Some people divorce their because of the dog. I remember a brother may be watching it in a live stream. His condition was with his candidate before he got married, and because she had a dog, and this brother is really very uncomfortable with the dog. Yes, and she said, please, please, don't bargain with me for marriage about the dog. I cannot live it. The wife said, I cannot live it. So they found another solution. I don't know, it's a detail, but it means some people, if the person who wanted to get married with her insisted that, no, you have to leave the dog, the marriage would not happen. Can you imagine how serious it is? Maybe more serious than the camel for the desert Arab. So you can ask this person, say that, look, Quran says, look at the camel, how it is created. So why don't you look at your dog, how it is created? That's what I mean by updating the content. What? Do you agree? You understand? We have to be very careful. Never go back to, when you are trying to understand the Quran, never go back to its historical context. When you are trying to understand the Quran, it was very important we can go to the historical context in one sense, be careful there. It was very important for the Arab life to do this and to do this and try to understand the content of the Quran within the context of the contemporaries of the Prophet. It is dangerous. But what you can say, since the camel was important for them, now the dog is. So to take the important animal with one's life as an evidence for his belief. As an example. Why? Because Quran gave the example of an animal which was very related to the life of the society. It means you have to give an example of an animal which is very much related to the practical life of your own living or society. That is what needs to be updated. Now I give an example, as the brother said, you know, the camel was very important. Okay, the Prophet used to eat dates, right? Okay, what does it mean? We have to import dates, sunnah, or date was the available fruit of the climate. So update it. What is the available fruit of the climate of the place where you live? What is it? Apple? Yeah. That is sunnah, to eat apple. Do you understand? So updating the content, not the purpose. I found it important because some people know the history of the Quranic commentary and exploit it, reject it totally. Says, the Quran is appropriate, bringing some rules and evidence appropriate for the people who had a certain lifestyle. We don't have that lifestyle now. We have to live it. Look at the danger. If you don't really if somebody is not really very, very careful how to approach the Quran, then it undermines. If you really bring up all your historical information and really stuff the minds of the people with historical information, and you, by doing this, you undermine the fundamentals of the Quranic teaching rather than helping it. When I really realized that, it is a big responsibility to refer the life of the contemporaries of the Prophet and be stuck there. You cannot really understand the Quran like this. That is very important. We got it, inshallah. Yeah.
Dr. Murmur, isn't there like a fine balance? On one hand, we don't want the literal interpretations. We don't want to be stuck in 7th century Arabia. But earlier in the lecture, you talked about the problem of modernizing, or taking it too far.
Yeah, of course.
So how do we? How do you know that you are in balance with this issue?
Well, no one can guarantee, but at least in principle, we have to understand. In principle, we have to understand that I cannot really read the Quran within a historical context. That's in principle. Would you like to say something?
No, I was just wondering, you have the 4 schools of thought. Obviously, there's been scholarship over 1,400 years since Prophet's death.
Yeah, of course.
How, because, we have to contextualize, Islam today, etc., make it, but like the sister says,
there are some things that the fundamentals are wrong.
Yeah.
You said we have to contextualize Islam. No, I didn't say that.
No, not at the roots, or no. I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying. But how do you? I guess how I'm trying to frame my question in a right way. How do you? There's lots of scholarship that's been said, and obviously with theology, especially, a lot of the scholars that I consult, they always go back to Imam Hanafi, Shafi, they always go back to a precedent. With Islam, it's always everything works on precedents. Doesn't that contradict the idea?
Excuse me, brother. You are confusing with madhab in amal, action.
Yes.
We are talking about iman, belief. How to read the Quran in order to have a satisfied heart in your belief. It is irrelevant. So, but the scholarship, no one can deny it. So, can you deny what Ibn Sina did in medical studies? No. But take the torch, move forward. Take the torch, move forward. You cannot really be stuck there. But again, there is a limit again. I will repeat. It means it's not clear. The content must be updated, not the purpose. Purpose is there to worship God and to understand who your Lord is and to worship him alone. So let's say 11th century scholars mostly were very happy with speaking from Quranic perspective. It means from God's perspective, saying that God told us this, it must be so. All right? It was valid that time. People never questioned the legitimacy of the Quran. In the public, general public. Now, people have been through secular education and very challenging ideas, competing, even rejecting, denying the fundamental teachings of the Quran. And all of us are subject to this culture. We have to come with an evidence, which will say that, look, really, when I say I believe in God, who is the creator of this universe, and I'm convinced about it, and you have to speak with your evidence. You cannot say, I believe in God because Quran said there is one God. People will laugh at you. Do you understand? You believe in God because Quran says. Why do you believe in God? Because Allah says. But what does it mean? This is just really tautology. Or we are a circular idea. This time it doesn't work. So what we have to do, we have to change the methodology in approaching the Quran. Now, it doesn't mean that we should deny or anything. So the how question, what? The importance of the how question. Especially how question, look at the how question, how? How mountains created or firmly fixed? How? So you have to study the mountain within your own, if you like, science area. You cannot study the mountains because great scholars in 10th century, example, or 12th century, studied the mountains. They are amazing. Yes, there are, for example, in mathematics, the Muslims, the logic, the Muslim scholarship is so great. You know, the difference between the Muslim society in Abbasid period until 12th, 13th century, no one could get next to it closer at all. Nobody in the world. So they are great. They were great people. They established a great civilization. Anyway, the human civilization, technological development, everywhere, every subject, literature, every subject, they were all great. Okay. What we have to do? Do we have to go back there? Or, yes, they were great, benefit from them and apply it to your own conditions. It must be so. What must be done? This is another, there are many how questions, but if we got the point today without, as you said, it's a slippery, I said slippery, as you said, where are we going to keep the balance? Never forget the purpose. Yeah, the content must be updated as far as our research is concerned. Does it bother you at all, anybody? That's methodologically essential. Yeah, Ihab isn't it? Yeah, so you can easily replace it.
So I almost know what your answer to this question is going to be, but I'm going to ask it. Maybe you have a different view. But so that's fine because that's easy and that's straightforward. Camels are animals. But there are other things in the Quran that I find difficult to make that sort of thing for. And I know that you can find something for it, but it's a little bit far-fetched for me. Like, for example, I just remembered a very common وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the nafathat fil uqad is, and I can look it up, but I can't even really very easily compare it to something that happens today because it doesn't. And it's something that is very, like I recite it all the time, and it becomes as if I'm
But,
super. Yeah.
I was expecting you to say, what does this the verse nefasat fil uqad mean? That's what the people should not
Yes,
feel.
I-
At least a little
Translate it.
translation.
I'm not sure, but I think what it meant.
Or,
It's a sort of black magic.
yeah, black magic. No, so the uqad is
Tying of knots or something.
knots. Yeah. So that the knots. So anything connecting two or more things together and blowing on it and making it in a mysteriously working. Some scholars said, look, the way of communicating through the connections, for example, the microphone and that kind of things, then making a magical appearances to people, brainwashing the people through some sort of means. Yeah. For example, I read one a kind of interpretation of it. I remembered when you said the uqad, yeah, means knot. Knot is like just a minute. What's the word? Yeah, the knot you turn on in a machine, on and off. Yeah, like that one. So when you open yourself to this kind of place that you get some inspirations, you get some sort of message. So they blow their own whisperings in order to affect you, although they are not directly connected to you. Now, this kind of interpretations. So it is not easy. It is not our duty because we have to watch out who is whispering to something so that I will be affected. Yeah, anything. But our aim is now today, our aim is not saying that we should change the content of the Quran completely, but as far as bringing the evidence for our conclusions concerning our belief, yeah, our conclusions, that I conclude that I am in this world for this purpose, I have a creator, etc. All the evidence Quran brings must be updated within our own context. We shouldn't go back, otherwise we can, for example, we cannot go back and we cannot study what 11th century people did. So I have to go and do my own work within my own context. That is the purpose, not that we have to understand the Quran, everything in the Quran by understanding it for you, but in your own context. But you have to understand it within your own capacity, within your own time. What does it mean for me now? So there are lots of different magicians. Yeah, that time this magicians used to do this. I don't know. What are the magicians of this time? For I have just done. No, I see that the magicians of this time are, this is my personal understanding, media inspirations, brainwashing. I'm very sensitive about it. Really brainwashing and indoctrination in order to follow a certain world view which benefits certain group of people. So they are the nefasat, magical, doing something I don't know the right word for it. Somebody else, I think. Would you like? Yeah.
So my question is, I understand what you said about the updating the idea of black magic to, or the magicians of today, but isn't that also maybe a way that, the Quran is trying to tell us that there are people who know who can do these kinds of things, that black magic isn't outside the,
Have you seen them? I haven't seen
but the Quran mentions black magic more than once.
but I haven't seen them.
I haven't seen them either. But,
So
should I discard it? Or
So you have to bring it. That was the point, if you like. Especially whether we asked the question, that was the point, if you like, of this subject today. What kind of magicians you are encountering with now in your personal life? Be careful. Watch out for them. Who is really, if you like, brainwashing you? Who is indoctrinating you with a certain worldview? Watch out. There are. For example, the same magicians of Pharaoh. Yeah. So the prophet came and put his whatever the message, and they disappeared. What is your, if you like, rod or staff representing your Moses staff now? Yeah, so that your staff, your means, whatever you have, you are given, use it in order to swallow up all magicians' ideologies, made up stories. Be careful. Be careful when you study the philosophies or interpretations of the word. Be careful the word. Yeah. So I keep saying this, and it must register. For example, they say, look, there was a thing in nuclear something exploded. What they say, because we don't see it, but at the same time they may demonstrate it through some laboratory work and demonstrating that some the atoms or particles are really exploding. What is explosion? It's an event. What is the source of this? The explosion, spreading, revolving around. Where did you get these all events? They are created beings. Not only the matter itself, the qualities of the matter also are created. The earth is one object, turning is another object. But they say earth turns. Where did you get the earth? Where did you get the atom? Where did you get turning? Where did you get exploding? Exploding, some exploit. Exploding. Where did you get this concept of exploding? It is a phenomenon. And it needs a creator, a source of existence. So the magic is there, and make us swallow, says it is acting itself. What is it doing? Walking. The creation of human beings, example, is different from my ability to walk, my ability to talk. These are other creative things. My ability to think, my ability to see. So human beings see, for example. We say, who created human being? I say, this is none. Who created seeing? That's an event. So it is, Lord, it's the magic. I see that this is what the Pharaoh's magicians were doing. hiding behind certain words and establishing their theories on these hidden words. So when somebody speaks and asks a question, and as I did to the brother here, he said, we have to, what did you say? Islam. We have to interpret Islam.
Adapt.
Update Islam. Huh? It's like an example. Just an example. Don't feel anything. No, not criticism. So update Islam. Oh, okay. We never said, what is updating Islam? We never talked about it. Update the content of the evidence the Quran brings to you is completely different from updating Islam. So I just interrupted brother and didn't let him speak further to make it clear that no one said that. Where did you get this idea? Yeah, if the first premise is based on illogical, how do you say, illogical statement, the first premise, the following premises are, or you can easily swallow them. For example, they said, all human beings are like this, the human beings like regenerations or the same reproduction. So that's why we get married. What does it mean? Wanting reproduction? Where did you get this idea? It's a new phenomenon. We have to be careful, and it is not difficult. The only thing is we have to draw our attention, the readers of the Quran's attention, that these are the most important thing. The qualities, of course, going back to the reference the brother said, the old scholarship made it so clear the difference between the object and the qualities of the object, properties of the object. They discussed separately. The object needs a creator. The properties of the object also need a creator. Yeah, update it now.
How then do we, I guess, bring into a modern context the point of heaven and how it is raised? How do I observe that? How do I think about that?
So, in New York, you live in New York.
Jersey now.
New York. Now you changed. Okay, so you come to New York. And it is bitter to live in New Jersey. The Prophet never lived in New Jersey. So it is just a really innovation. So do you live in New Jersey? Can you see the sky? Can you see the stars in New Jersey? Yeah. We don't see it here. Yes? So, excuse me. So look at the sky, how it's raised. Huh? Can you not go in observatory lab and look at through an electron telescope? Why not? Why not? It doesn't mean that everybody has to do that, but use your own means within your own context.
He said heaven and hell, though.
But okay, yeah.
Sorry?
He said heaven and hell, I believe.
Not I didn't say
So I didn't bring up hell, but you
No, sky.
Oh, you went the heavens, like the sky?
Sky. Now the subject is sky.
It says at the heaven, right? So I don't think that means the sky and the celestial stars that we could observe with a Hubble telescope or any sort of a telescope.
Oh, you said something else then. You didn't mean sky?
No, I didn't mean. I said, and the heaven, how it is raised, right?
The sky. How is it raised? Sama. Is not the heaven as you understand the paradise.
Oh.
No. It is irrelevant. That is another subject. That's another subject. When the Quran mentions about the heaven or paradise and hell, that's another subject. You have to understand yourself now, as the Quran mentions, but it is a long discussion. It will be a long discussion.
So with these verses, then I see how, it's appropriate to update camel. But what about heaven, mountains, earth? Would it be appropriate to update those
Can you not update the content of studying mountain? It's so simple. It's what go and study how the people explain the things are coming and look at them within your own context. You don't have to go to Mecca to see the mountains there in order to really follow this command, if you like. The Quran says, look, it's a command. Quran says, pray, it's a command. Look at this, it's a command, equal command. Yes, we say that we have to pray, you have to pray, you have to pray. We have to say that you have to look at the mountain, you have to look at the mountain, even more. Yeah. For example, the Quran asks us to really think about the creation, hundreds of times, if not thousands. It is extremely important to look at it. It's a no command. Now look at it as you can, as much as you can now. You don't have to go to Mecca or Medina. That's so simple. So it means that we shouldn't really drag the reader into a certain time while we are reading the Quran.
So the boundaries for someone living now in New York City should be the buildings. I mean,
it doesn't matter. However you
so
see,
everything that
not
you see.
necessarily that we have to speculate on
A better
it.
way to look at it is to say, you know, for all four of these ayat, if you look at it as, you know, look at this creation and this amazing quality this creation holds.
Yeah.
Whether it's an animal, whether it's a building, a mountain.
These are
earth.
examples.
Exactly. So it's actually, each of them are the exact same example going off each other, but the way it's posed to us is challenging us to look at this animal, dog, building, and then then we challenge it to ourselves. How is this thing existing? How is this ocean so big? How is the,
Because small. You know,
right, exactly.
A drop of water.
Right.
It is as big as an ocean.
Right.
If you solve how a drop of water is coming into existence, you have solved the problem of ocean, what, and drop.
Right.
If you get the answer, you will get the answer for the ocean, because they are coming into existence within the same rules or principles coming into existence. So these are examples. Oh, yeah.
So one way that I'm looking at these four verses is it doesn't matter whether we're looking at it now or 1,000 years ago or 1,000,000 years ago. I mean, the heavens, the mountains, and the earth are always there. They aren't created during our time. They're fixed. So you can look at how it was raised or how it's fixed, and it's always there. But when I look at the camel, it's something that is created in our lifetime that we can see it happen over and over. So that is the only thing within this this verse that I think that we can substitute something that's common in our time, whether it's a horse, a bird, or a dog, or whatever, which is created within our lifetime, because there really aren't any animals that are in existence for 1,000 years that doesn't change within our time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Needs we don't have much time, but a little bit extension to. Now you can look at the mountain as they exist now and examine, study how they exist right now. Not the beginning of, as we think that the universe is a beginning, all right, and how they were created at the beginning. You don't have to right now. I exist, mountain exists, an atom exists, then you examine how they come into existence right now. Not the beginning of, for example, in order to see how I came into existence, you don't have to go and see when I was a baby. No, now, as I am. everything is changing. Nothing is static. So every new station is coming into existence anew. Do you get it?
I get
Extension.
it. That makes sense. In that case, you're talking about existence as an ongoing process. But if someone wants to look at it and doesn't get to that point where they can look at it as happening at all times at this present moment, then I think looking at something that's created over time, it is another way to get there.
Yeah, another way, but not exclusive. It's also you can see that now how do I exist? Not now. Get a glass of water. Look, how does it exist? And a bird, how does it exist? When it is flying, investigate it. How does it fly? When it lands somewhere, look at it. How does it land? In every instant, we can see the evidence of the signs, the qualities of its creator, regardless of limitations. Bismillah.
I think it's all about the receptivity of the revelation. If you don't ask that how question, like it is like example, camel, they are working really hard. They drink really little water, and they can store water, and they can eat little food.
So every animal drinks water.
As a human being, if you want to receive the receptivity of Quranic revelation, we have to be we have to change a little lifestyle. But when you are walking on the mountain, or when we meditate on the mountain, we can remember Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He did 6 years meditation in the cave before he received the revelation. And also, one more thing I'm telling about Bursavi talks about the attachment of the things. He says that if you don't want to worry, the thief come to your house, you get rid of everything wherever you have at your house, and then you don't have to worry about the thief enter your house. But if you want to get rid of everything, in your heart, be attached to everything, and then evil things cannot enter your heart.
But brother, thank you. I don't see the relation to our subject. Thank you.
Everything we have.
Thank you for your contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم إن الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة.